For Global Business Update, Rotus Ojiri joins us now. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all our viewers. Asian stocks mixed. More weak data coming out of China. China is really struggling. They're falling into deflation territory. It is amazing how we've been talking about inflation now for quite a while. China has now fallen into deflation territory for the first time since 2020. You can see the annual inflation consumer price index, a contraction of 0.3%. It was flat in June. The forecast was a contraction of 0.4%. Producers, on the producer side, PPI, year on year, that also contracted by 4.4%. The forecast was for 0.1%. And so this is the fascinating thing. Deflation is where prices are dropping. And so what consumers do is say, oh, this thing is dropping. I'm going to hold off on buying it because I think the price is going to fall again. And you now fall into this deflationary cycle where things continue to fall and fall and fall. More issues. We talked about Evergrande. Now, Country Garden is in focus again. China's property sector in serious trouble. They missed coupon payments. Coupons, of course, are the payments you get on bonds, which are IOUs, fixed income securities. They got two bonds, $500 million bonds each, both due in February 2026 and August of 2030. And the coupon payments that they missed, they acknowledged it just this morning or yesterday. Their total liability is about $200 billion. I think they've got about a total of about $2 to $3 billion in payments due just this year alone. Now, of course, we're having a side conversation about content creation on Twitter a moment ago. For these real estate guys, you've got to make money to be able to pay your bills. Their July sales are down 75% from 2021 levels. And you've got to factor in this, deflationary environment that China is currently in right now with respect to the struggles that they're having. More struggles. The US, I think later today, will be announcing some high-tech investment bans. I talked about this yesterday with regards to the arms race with Oppenheimer and the lessons on how education is the number one item that you've got to look at if you want to create jobs, if you want to boost your economy. So they are targeting cutting-edge Chinese tech firms, right? They're going to be prohibiting investment in AI for military end users because there's lots of fear about China spying on other countries. The US is going to require notice for investment in AI sectors in China. So that is basically venture capital, private equity folks will have to tell the United States. It's easier to do this when you have inbound investments coming into the United States. When it's outbound going to China, it's going to be a bit tough because the US has pretty much been open about letting capital flow towards China. China, on the other hand, has not been the case, right? They are more stringent with the capital that flows in and out. They're going to be banning investment in some quantum computing areas. Quantum computing is really advanced stuff when you think about quantum mechanics and there was some news I even missed out on how some scientists in the United States have replicated nuclear fusion. Basically how the sun reheats itself is what they're looking at. They've recreated now in a lab. It's real anyway. So, and then certain advanced semiconductors are going to be off limits. So this is an announcement that should come later today. It was wider in scope, but they've narrowed it. This is where the arms race is in terms of technology between the Chinese, the United States, the Europeans, and so on. From there, we go to Italy. So Italy, they learned a lesson in bad communication. We talked about their 40% windfall tax on banks, which they just pretty much surprised the markets. I think the market cap on Italy's stock exchange, I think it was about 500 billion, if I remember correctly, from what was lost yesterday. There was a massive sell-off in banks. They spooked the markets with the windfall tax. So now they turned around and said, okay, wait. So sorry. Actually, the clarification is going to be 0.1% cap on total bank assets. What they have not said is, are you talking about global assets for the banks or are you talking about assets limited to Italy? If you are talking about a 0.1% cap tax on global assets on banks, that's going to be in the billions because you're taking in assets that they have around the world. If you are saying it's a 0.1% cap on assets in Italy, then maybe that's going to be in the hundreds of millions of euros. But they've learned their lesson because it just came out of nowhere with that. I think Parliament is probably going to approve that. So that's what's happening over in Europe. We come to the International Labour Organization, the ILO. They said they have put out a report saying that they're expecting 3 million more people to lose jobs in 2023. Employment growth of only 1%. The unemployment population to climb to 208 million. Rising cost of living, inflation is one of the main reasons. For developing markets like Nigeria, they are emphasizing the skills gap. You three were just talking about jobs, and Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. You missed out on education. If the skills gap in Nigeria is high. There are not enough. I mean, we have skilled labor, but it is not at scale. So that is, there are not enough skilled people in certain sectors. And as I said when I talked about Oppenheimer yesterday, the fact that we are behind in terms of the advanced skills that are needed for the labor markets of the future. So you can pump as much money as you want into the economy. You can support whoever you want to support. Education has to be it. You must prop up the universities. You must put research and development. You must develop what's between the ears. Because if you don't, then you are going to be behind the 8 ball, and this skills gap is going to continue to increase. Naira dollar, boy. The INE window, look, at this point, yeah, the windows have been collapsed, but this is starting to look like it was just a devaluation from 400 to 7, because we've been at this 770 level now since June, even though it's a good thing the windows are collapsed. Parallel market has now moved to 895 as of yesterday. Parallel market inflows, which are electronic flows into your account if you want to purchase dollars in that form, is at 900. And P2P, peer-to-peer on the crypto exchanges, that's also touched 900 as well. So you're seeing the gap continue to widen between the INE window, which is a single window, and the other markets. Now, again, supply is not going to just magically come into the market unless other things are put in place. So that's something that's there. Tony Elumelu, of course, met with AJ Banga. He hosted him at his home when he, of course, that's the new World Bank president, when he came to the country. And in fact, they talked about a number of things. We had on the Rise Exchange yesterday, the CEO of Husk Energy. And he actually says that, I mean, they're into mini grids, that there is a potential partnership with Transcorp. Here's a clip of what he said yesterday.
On Transcorp Power, it was a pleasure to meet with Mr. Tony Elumelu in person. That he's an inspiration of mine. But more importantly, he is also very keen to solve the problem using and looking at the whole integrated energy value chain. And these are initial conversations, so I cannot talk too much about it. But there is a potential for partnership to address the energy need and energy transition for this country.
Power, so we've talked about the economy. If you don't solve power in Nigeria, you're not getting anywhere. So the mini grids are incredibly important. The power sector, there's a lot of potential there. So with what Husk is doing with the mini grids and a potential partnership, he didn't want to give us details, but there's something in the works between him, Tony Elumelu, and of course, Transcorp. And finally, the tax committee, the Presidential Tax Committee was inaugurated yesterday. They're looking at trying to get up to 18% tax to GDP ratio by 3 years from now or so. Taiwo Oyedele, of course, spoke extensively in the villa. And so we got him yesterday to talk about that, and I asked him how they're going to achieve that.
We do not want to introduce new taxes. In fact, we want to get rid of many of the taxes that we currently have that are not productive. So it would then seem counterintuitive that you're going to reduce the number of taxes that people pay, and yet you want to collect more. Here's where we're going to find the money from. The first one is a tax gap. We think that as of today, the tax gap is somewhere in the region of 20 trillion naira. And what that means is, if you just focus on the major taxes, VAT, corporate income tax, personal income tax, there are people who, as of today, should be paying, and they're not compliant. Some people and businesses are in the tax net with, I always say this, with just one finger. How do you get all the body to be inside of the tax net? That's the biggest one. The other areas where we think that we can make generate revenue from is really bringing down the cost of collection. The cost of collection is so huge in Nigeria, despite collecting so little in revenue, particularly because you have too many agencies trying to collect revenue, and those are not their core mandates. So these agencies are actually being distracted from doing what they're supposed to be doing to support the economy. So take those functions away from them. They focus on their primary mandate, which means they facilitate economic growth. And the FRS, for example, would then collect those revenue more efficiently and save on the cost of collection.
We're already talking before the clip is even over. Okay. But yeah, that's it. Okay, that's what it is.
Let me jump into a couple of things. I mean, I'm happy about what President Tinubu, is doing with the taxes and all of that, because you need a lot of harmonization, you need a lot of tech in the process to be able to streamline things. And it is possible because we're even doing way below the African benchmark. The African benchmark is about 17-18% tax to GDP ratio. 15, I think Benin does 15 or 14% thereabout. So if we can push it up to even over 18 or 20, but 18 is a good place to start. And it's about the efficiency of the system. All those Agberu, all those local government guys that come and give you all sorts of receipts and all of that should be scrapped, put into a very holistic system so that people can know what they're paying for. Secondly, we keep talking about how economy is going to grow. And I'm happy Rotus did mention the need for education. And that's why shame on the last government that couldn't solve the ASU problem. And you see, when ASU goes on strike, government thinks that they are doing anybody by stifling ASU. It's because we want a better education system that can in turn have better curriculums that can feed the skills needs of the future. And we used to have it in this country. Why was it that this same country that the healthcare system is moribund today used to have the 5th best hospital, teaching hospital in the Commonwealth in the 70s, UCH in Ibadan, where the Saudi royal family used to come and get healthcare, where you had the likes of Rosadio Lambo, you had other top intellectuals. You see, most of those eggheads in UCH started leaving when the first problem happened in the early 80s with the currency and all of that. Nigeria had that greatness. We can do it. We can reestablish all of that. And it starts by going back to the university system. And you see, for all of those that cut a lot of universities funding after Ali Must Go riots, please remember that you were just doing the next generation because you wanted to hurt the students for protesting. You were just doing the next generation, and we can see all the problems on ground. So the government should go out there and fix the problem of our education system. Secondly, there's so much happening in China. I need to yield the floor. I want to talk about the real estate market. But China, goodness me. I yield the floor.
Going on in China, but let me come to Nigeria with regards to the tax to GDP target of 18% tax to GDP ratio. Now, when a number of people hear tax and are trying to improve the tax system, there's a bit of fear. It means that they want to tax us a bit more. Are we not paying a lot more tax at the moment? And it's just important to emphasize that according to Mr. Taiwo Oyedele when he was speaking, he had mentioned that Nigeria loses up to 20 trillion now, and he's not the first to have said that, to people who evade paying tax. And so one of the key things they'd be tasked with doing is to widen the tax net and to ensure that people who are not currently captured are captured and they are paying. And I think this is also an important time to inform those in the informal sector. And I don't mean those who petty traders. I mean those who do businesses off the chart.
Off the books.
Yeah, off the books. People in the entertainment industry, people who earn money on the side, who hustle, who don't pay tax currently. It's a good time to regularize your tax so that you're paying and you don't fall into penalties or get caught and have to pay extra. I recall the issue with the Yoruba actress, Iyabo Ojo, who had come out and said, it was a target on her. Go and fix your tax, get your tax identification number and fix it before the government helps you to fix it. I was hoping we could talk about Twitter. And because this is part of Nigerians being able to earn money from one source or the other. Yesterday, Nigerians said posting on Twitter, Elon Musk was trending for the right reasons this time, that Nigerians are getting money paid from content creators on Twitter. But the other side of it is that people will then do almost anything to trend because the criteria for this is just for you to be able to generate conversation and engagement, 15 million cumulatively in 3 months. So just to have that conversation to explore ways, there's still other aspects to it.
And they should pay taxes on those earnings.
And they should pay taxes.
On taxation. Yesterday, President Tinubu inaugurated the Presidential Committee, right, on taxation and fiscal policy, led by Taiwo Oyedele. Nobody doubts the fact that Taiwo Oyedele knows his subject. He knows his subject. But it's not just about the recommendations. That committee has 6 months to come up with, recommendations. But the point is, the big area in tax management in Nigeria is the trust deficit.
Bingo.
And one of the points that Taiwo Oyedele made yesterday is that part of his mission will be to make sure that tax is beneficial to the people. If you bring more people, if you widen the net and you bring more people in, that's how you can have more efficient collection. And that efficient collection will have to be based on technology and all of that.
Amen.
But the link is the trust. That, okay, this tax that these people are collecting, they will use it for the purposes for which they have told us. Not that we will collect the tax, government will say we have made so much money, we have achieved the target of 18%, and the roads to the east will still be in a very bad condition.
And the senators will be sharing money.
And,
say, off your mic.
Senate president will say, I'll put some
More money in your account.
some coins
in
your bank account so that
No.
you can enjoy recess.
I didn't say that, Dr.
So-
Martino. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. I withdraw that statement. I withdraw that statement.
So that would dissuade the people. That's that about that. About the naira. The naira is about 900 naira to the dollar. Okay, this harmonization of the two windows, it doesn't seem to be working. We keep hearing that the challenge is supply. Okay, demand and supply. We were told, once you float, that's their expression. The naira, money float. So how well are they managing the float now? Because it looks like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, the depreciation of the naira. And then Italy, that you talked about, it's good you say it's a problem of communication. Because the original reason is that the banks in Italy hiked their interest rates and they made humongous profits.
Correct.
Then the authorities had to step in and say, this profit you are making, pay part of it. So the government will use it to help households, to help small and medium scale businesses. You know, so I was worried when you were saying it's communication, because I was going to say, is that not an example that Nigeria should emulate?
But Doctor, it came out of nowhere. They just surprised the market and said,
no, in Nigeria we can manage the communication better.
Yeah, correct.
These banks that make so much profit at a time when there is a rampaging epidemic of poverty, of empty pockets in Nigeria. So maybe there is something that can be done in that direction.
Are you calling for a tax on Nigerian banks?
Do you agree?
I partially agree.
Anyway, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much.